predictions on climate change and its implications for the world are bleak. The reduction of carbon emissions and the need for rapid introduction of renewable energy has become a race to save the planet. Earth Report travels to Britain, Germany and Mauritius to monitor the race. Britain is currently behind many countries in the switch to renewable energy, such as solar and wind power. Installing solar in the UK is so expensive it takes an individual 40 to 50 years to get their money back. In Germany, it takes just 12 years. There, people can sell electricity back to the grid at a price guaranteed for 20 years. In Germany, they end up making money. In Germany, it's payback time.
See what's in my box here?
Londoner Dave Days has been making his own efforts to reduce carbon emissions. He's not concerned about the payback time. He built his own house and is busy reducing his dependence on fossil fuels.
Yeah, and whilst we were building 20 years ago, we were thinking about we'd love to have solar panels. There was no government aid, there wasn't any compunction to do it. You'd have to be filthy rich to do any of those kind of things. Ron, I need your hand to get this ladder up.
18 months ago, Dave installed photovoltaics, or solar electric panels, on his roof.
I don't run a flash car. I don't want a flash car. In fact, I boast that I have my Ferrari on the roof. Even when it's overcast, these still produce electricity. I used to think that England is too dull and too wet to produce enough electricity, but if every house in the UK had a few panels on, we wouldn't need half of our generating capacity.
Dave sells the electricity his solar panels produce to an electricity company, and it is then fed into the national grid. However, the price he's paid is low, and the utility can further reduce the price he gets at any time. There is no law in the UK to guarantee small independent power producers like Dave access to the grid. Although some grants are available, the cost of setting up home renewable energy puts most people off.
I think the UK government need to look a little bit more wider field to see what other examples are in place. I was in Germany last year and I told that the government out there, they have a much bigger incentive. They say, you want solar panels, here's an interest-free loan. And for every kilowatt that you produce, we'll pay you 5 times the going rate for each kilowatt.
Hermann Scheer MP is one of the main reasons Germany is doing things differently.
I had a question. The question was, what is the non-fossil alternative to nuclear energies? Because there is no doubt fossil energies will run out. The question was, why should it not be the renewable energy potential? And most people, including environmental activists, answered the potential would not be enough. And I didn't believe that. I didn't believe that, and then I started to make my own research. And my finding was it would be enough, by far enough.
Freiburg in southwest Germany became a key centre of the renewable energy movement. Both industry and research institutes specialising in photovoltaics based themselves here. The outward signs, offices, homes and schools with solar-panelled roofs justify Freiburg's title Solar Capital of Europe. Josef Pesch runs Fässer, a company dedicated to small-scale and community investment in renewable energy.
The whole thing started, I think, with the first nuclear power station not built in Germany. And that, in a way, sparked a chain reaction, because everybody in the scene agreed it's not enough to be against something. You want to do something positive. In a way, in Freiburg, you have this coming together of conservative in the real sense of the word. That is from the Latin conservare, to keep, to conserve. And progressive Greens who got together here.
The German Environment Ministry has announced that over 200,000 people are now employed in the renewable energy industry. It produces 12% of its electricity from renewable sources: solar, wind, hydro and biomass. And growth in this sector is the highest in Europe. The incentive was the Renewable Energy Act of 1999.
It simply sets out that you are given a fixed price for an installation that you build that is fixed for 20 years. That law was passed in order to give small independent power producers a chance to get into that market and to sell their electricity at a decent price.
The main architect of the German Renewable Energy Act was Hermann Scheer.
Whole law has only 3 elements. First element is guaranteed access to the grid for each renewable energy power supplier, even when it is a very small one. Second, a guaranteed price, a guaranteed fee. And the third element is no limitation for introduction, an open door.
Over here we have our clean room area.
In Freiburg, the Fraunhofer Solar Energy Institute, a research and development establishment, has felt the benefits of the law's introduction.
The renewable energy law, which is guaranteeing a feed-in tariff, touches photovoltaics as the topic among our 3 main topics at the Institute. So for photovoltaics, this really has caused a stronger demand from the industry side, and it has made it possible for us to set up a new lab last year, which was financed for the most part by the German Ministry for the Environment.
The Renewable Energy Law in 1999 was a real starter for the industry in Germany, because in 1997, for example, when I started my PhD, all the industry in PV production was gone from Germany. Everybody went to the States or to Japan, and just at the end of the 90s we had really a rapid growth of the institute of about 40% each year, which correlates a little bit to what the industry growth was in that time.
Solar Fabrik in Freiburg is one of Europe's leading solar technology manufacturers, part of the renewable industry boom.
In Germany, the solar industry alone makes revenues of 4 billion euros and has 45,000 employees.
However, the growth of the alternative energy sector almost never happened. Some German utility companies launched a huge campaign to challenge the legality of the act.
The electric power trusts tried in the last 15 years all what they could do to block it. They tried to block the legislation, and they didn't succeed. Then they went to the Supreme Court and claimed it would be against the market rules, and they lost. Then they went to the European Court, and they lost. They lost all battles.
Earth Report repeatedly asked the German electricity industry for their view on the legal action. They declined to give an interview.
The German utilities argued that there were really 2 problems with the Renewable Energy Act. Firstly, they argued that it was anti-competitive because it provided a fixed price for electricity produced from green electricity rather than a market price. And secondly, they argued that it was threatening grid stability because the grid companies were forced to take all the renewable energy no matter at what time of day it was produced.
It's not threatening yet, but the energy companies have become aware that generating energy from solar power can become a threat if they don't deal with the issue today. One thing is clear. Today, power stations are run on oil and gas, which are depleting resources, and they have to consider relatively soon what alternatives are available. That's why the opposition that has been against this form of energy generation a few years ago has now nearly disappeared.
But if German utilities are forced to pay out for renewable energy, does it mean electricity prices will go up?
In Germany, we worked this out because that is added to the electricity bill that each individual pays. It's about €1 a month that you pay extra for this renewable energy bill, which is about €12 a year. This is the price of a couple of beers.
We've seen that the German Renewable Energy Act has created a jobs boom in the renewables market, but companies outside the sector are also benefiting. It's not just householders in Germany who can now sell renewable energy back to the utilities. Companies can do it too.
We work with logs from Black Forest. 90% of our products is wood production, and 10% of our turnaround is electricity.
This timber merchant creates extra profits from the new power plant it has built. It powers the works, and the surplus electricity is sold to the grid.
We calculate that we can pay back the power plant in between 10 to 12 years. Before, the problem was that the big electricity companies set down the price, that never it will be a profit for this kind of production. They wanted not to have this kind of electricity production. The biomass energy is less expensive than the oil. We are independent from the international crisis. We are independent from political systems.
Mauritius. Beautiful beaches, clear blue seas, tropical climate. A tourist paradise. But that tourism creates an increased demand for electricity produced from imported coal and oil. Here in Mauritius, they are feeling the effects of climate change.
This global warming that has happened, that has caused so much disruption in the lives of people. In Mauritius, we are feeling it. You know, we have a prolonged drought last year, which we never had. And now we are having rain, and this is being felt everywhere. It has sounded the alarm bell all over the world. People are now very much conscious. Even the mighty United States has realized.
Sugarcane covers 90% of agricultural land in Mauritius. For years, under a special EU protocol, sugar was sold to Europe at a subsidised rate, and bagasse, the carbon-neutral waste from sugarcane, was burnt to create electricity. Now, the European Union has slashed the money it will pay for sugar, so the island has initiated a renewable energy revolution.
The sugar industry of Mauritius is at a crossroad. It has to undergo a deep reform to meet the challenges of the reform of the EU sugar regime, which entails a 36% reduction in the price of sugar. This means that it has to transform itself from a single-base commodity product, which is sugar, into one exploiting the full potential of the sugarcane biomass. Producing electricity from sugarcane fiber means, in fact, that you are not using oil to make electricity. In our case, 20% of the electricity of Mauritius is from sugarcane fiber, which is a renewable source, and of course it is a world record.
Legislation introduced allows new, highly efficient power plants to feed power into the grid. They are being built next to sugar mills, where energy production is now as important as sugar.
This is an independent power plant whereby we will sell the energy to the grid, which is then sold to the locally to industries and to the people on the one side, and on the other side the energy produced by this power plant is also utilized in the sugar factory here and in the refinery and the ethanol distillery.
As in Germany, but unlike the UK, the price for electricity is fixed at a high level, making electricity a profitable extra business.
The advantage of the bagasse coal power plant is that the country is going to save on the importation of coal every year about 250,000 tons of coal, which are not going to be imported because bagasse is going to be utilized to produce the power.
The future potential of renewable energy from bagasse looks even more exciting.
But at the level of research, we are looking at new technologies. One of them is gasification, which can increase the output of energy from cane by about 250%. With these new technologies and the advent of the high fiber cane, in fact, we can produce the whole of electricity of Mauritius, even more than we need in 2015, from the sugarcane biomass, which should be something really remarkable.
Our energy policy is geared towards reducing, first of all, our dependency on fuel oil. Perhaps the most important one is to reduce carbon emission, greenhouse gases phenomenon, which, as you probably realize, is causing havoc in the whole world.
These environmental concerns mean the Mauritian government has hopes to expand into other forms of renewable energy.
And I have maybe a dream, you know, and I think the dream comes true that everybody will have solar panels on their home, and they can not only use it for themselves, but, you know, export it to the grid.
Back in Germany, this dream is becoming a reality with the help of the 1999 Renewable Energy Law.
This is our latest solar power plant that we just finished last year in June. It was financed by citizens putting in money. We have 18 shareholders in this, and in June, in just one day, it produced all the electricity my household consumed in a complete year in just one day. We can only do this, of course, because we have a minimum price law. We have a price for electricity here that is fixed, that can be calculated. And this is why a small company like mine can go to a bank, say, look, we have this site, we have the panels, can you give us the finance? And they said yes. Without the minimum price that is guaranteed for 20 years, this would definitely have not been bankable. You can see this in the region because solar energy is being talked about and it pays also for private, even smaller investors. And you can see this right here, that private house owners are putting solar panels on their roofs.
Two years ago, Herr Schnürer and his partner moved into this development where they paid extra to have a house with photovoltaics on the roof.
First, we invested in the photovoltaic installation, and we know if it functions properly, it generates slightly more than 5,000 watts. That's much more than we consume. Through the Renewable Energies Law, this energy is subsidized by the German government for 20 years. This means that we will have a return on our investment capital of 8.8% in 2006. This is significantly more than any bank can currently offer us. Based on the experience with our photovoltaic installation, the payback time will be approximately 12 years. This means that the installation will be subsidized for a further 8 years. But it will even be profitable beyond this point because it generates more electricity than we consume as an average household.
Sie wird sich aber auch danach noch deshalb rentieren, weil sie ja mehr Strom erzeugt, als man in einem normalen Haushalt verbrauchen kann.
As soon governments see fast development, including new industries, new jobs, like it happens in Germany, they get appetite for that. They start to ask, could that happen in Germany, and why doesn't it happen here?
There's always a certain inertia in changing a system. But if you look at the map of Europe, and if you look at those countries who have a minimum price system, it is those countries who are also successful in renewable energies, and much more successful, I think, than Britain is at the moment.
Figures from the Department of the Environment show Britain only produces 4% of its electricity from renewables. Without a law like Germany's that sets prices and makes renewable energy affordable, small investors will not be encouraged by the prospect of a short payback time.
One will be down here to make sure if you drop...
Londoner Dave Days is a green pioneer who has switched to renewable energy out of principle.
Do it for the planet. Be unselfish. Think about the future. It might not be your future, it might be your child's future, it might be your grandchildren's future, it might be your neighbour's children. And if the government was to put a bit more legislation in place, a bit more money up front, we could get these young industries off the ground. And then more people could get in on it because it'd be cheaper.
In the UK, there are some government grants for solar and wind power, but demand far outstrips availability. We asked the Department of the Environment and the Department of Trade and Industry for an interview. They both declined.
Roughly 30 countries have copied our Renewable Energy Act, and it will become more. It's only a question of political will. Only a question of political will, nothing else.